Welcome back to another episode of After the Whistle. I'm your host, Colby Allen. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Today's a very special day. Recording this episode actually on Thanksgiving morning. So normally I record a day before, but, didn't have time. I know we can all admit that sometimes adults, time is very much a thing that goes by way too fast, and we seem to always run out of it. Kind of funny how that happens. But so this week, Rivalry week, and I know that's a tongue twister. I know sometimes if I get caught trying to say it too fast, I'll, Rivalry week, sound like Elmer Fudd, on Bugs Bunny. But anyway, Rivalry week is here. Hate week, whatever you want to call it. A lot of good games. What last weekend didn't give us, this weekend is making up for it. I know last weekend, a lot of people were saying it was the most boring weekend of college football that they've ever seen. A little bit of an exaggeration, honestly, but that was the word on the street. This week, we're going to be, it's going to be made up for tenfold. A lot of big games, a lot of big rivalry games, a lot of games with a lot of college football playoff implications, some conference championship implications. Some people have, some teams have no hope of making postseason or whatever, and they're just trying to ruin their rival's season. And that's what this week's all about. It's just about hate for the other person, for the other colors across the other sideline from you. First off, I'd like to say, if you're joining the show for the first time, thank you for tuning in. If you've been with me from the get-go or you've been with me for a long time listening to this show, I appreciate it. Wherever you listen, show's available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Amazon Music. Be sure to like and subscribe if you are listening on one of those platforms. It's the best way for me to keep up with who's listening, where they're listening from, kind of get a target audience, and then also it helps you because if you like and subscribe, the episodes automatically will download for you when I release them. And then also you will get a notification, and if you have them turned on, you'll get a notification that I have released a new episode. So, first things first, let's get into a little bit of football. And what I will say before we start is this episode's probably going to be one of my shorter episodes just because of the fact that it is Thanksgiving. I understand that you're trying to spend time with your family. I'm trying to spend time with my family. So I'm not trying to sit here and take a whole lot of time recording and editing and all this. So this is going to be a really short by my standards, I guess, pick'em style episode. I'm going to go game to game, give a brief little, summary on each game, pick who I think is going to win, and then we're going to roll with it. And, like if you're traveling between families' houses like I am today, it gives you a perfect opportunity during your little commute going back and forth to, listen to me. I can't think of a better way for you to do it. So let's start things off with the great state of Mississippi. Let's start off with the Egg Bowl, and let's talk about Ole Miss playing Mississippi State, and a lot of things, kind of being overshadowed, by this, by the Lane Kiffin drama, and we're not going to get into that. I've said my piece on it, so we're not going to, we're not going to get into that too much. Because of, like I said, I think I've done 2 straight episodes, over the last 2 weeks talking about Lane Kiffin. So I know y'all probably exhausted. The Lane Kiffin, fatigue is real. I'm not talking about it. I'll talk about it whenever he finally makes a decision, which we're hearing that it's going to be after this game. So getting into this football game, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, really nothing on the line for Mississippi State. 5-6, they can win this game and go to a bowl. But these teams, it's just like any rivalry game out there. They hate each other. You've got a, quarterback matchup in Trinidad Chambliss. Blake Shapen was the quarterback, was the guy for Mississippi State for a greater part of the year. Here, as of late, they have been moved off of him, gone to Van Buren, which is, I would think the right call. I think he's looked better. But then also you got to think of the fact that, you've got Mississippi State who's got a, talented, very talented freshman quarterback as well waiting in the wings. So there's a lot to me that Mississippi State can do here to make it difficult for Ole Miss. The problem is that Ole Miss is just way too, to me, way too good of a football team. And, everybody says, with the rivalry thing, throw it out the window, whatever. I'm not too sure on that, because there's some times that the other team's just too good. And I think this is one of those instances. I don't think that Mississippi State has the ability to keep pace with Ole Miss scoring-wise. An Ole Miss defense that, they give up some yardage, they give up some points, but they take the football away a decent amount. And so I just feel like that's going to be the biggest difference in the football game, is the fact that Ole Miss is going to get a few extra possessions. They're going to win that football game. The current spread on this football game is Ole Miss by 7.5. Over under set at 62.5. Take Ole Miss, take the points, take the over on the points as well. If you're betting that, 62.5, I'm taking over that. I'm taking Ole Miss to cover. I'm taking Ole Miss to win this football game 38-27 over the Mississippi State Bulldogs. All right, moving on. Clean old-fashioned hate at 3:30 on Black Friday. Another football game that, was a lot bigger. It was a lot bigger of a football game, I guess, before Georgia Tech lost last weekend. Everybody was kind of anticipating this one to be a little bit of a slugfest showdown. We remember last year the 8 overtime game between these two teams in Georgia and Georgia Tech. Georgia currently a 13.5-point favorite. The line has definitely moved. There's a lot of money coming in on Georgia, and people are just hammering that Georgia line, hammering it. And, when you see the trend and you see the trajectory of these two teams, you can't help but bet Georgia. I don't see any reason why anyone would want to bet Georgia Tech in this spot, because of the fact that Georgia Tech's just way too one-dimensional. Last year on this offense that took Georgia to overtime, 8 overtimes, mind you, they had the playmakers. They had Eric Singleton. They had a lot of playmakers that they could rely on. It wasn't just the Haynes King show. That this year, it's been nothing but the Haynes King show. Now, granted, he's been good enough most of this year to get the job done. He's been good enough. I mean, he's got over 2,500 passing yards, 12 touchdowns, 4 picks, and he's got 168 carries for almost 900 yards on the year. So he's been great in both, on both sides, throwing and running. The problem is a one-dimensional offense like this has never fared well against a Kirby Smart defense. In order to really give a Kirby Smart defense fits, you have to spread the field out. You have to have multiple playmakers. You have to get vertical down the field. Georgia Tech's one of those offenses this year where it's been a first down run for 4 yards, 2nd and 6, get the ball, snap it, another 4-yard run, 3rd and 2, another run, first down. They just kind of really putt down the field, sound like a tractor going down the field. They're not a very explosive offense. They're not going to sit there and just air it out. Haynes King's not going to throw for 400 yards, and that's just not the way they're going to operate. And the problem with that is that plays right into Georgia's strength. As far as the run defense, Georgia's top 10 in the country in that regard. When you count the metrics that matter, I mean, we can talk about others, but Georgia's a top 10 unit, top 15 unit if you want to be, that way. But they've gotten better as the year has progressed. This is a Georgia defense. Earlier in the year, I said, that there were some holes in this defense. They have definitely, kind of like when you row in a boat, you've seen the GIF or you've seen the internet image where somebody's rowing a boat and they start getting holes in the bottom of the boat and the water's spouting up from the top. Georgia's plugged the holes. And they've tossed the water that they took on out the side of the boat. They've gotten a lot better on that side of the football. And likewise, the offense has gotten better too. I mean, they've been very reliant on Zachariah Branch, but he seems to be able to handle the workload. Noah Thomas, the emergence of him, as well as just the consistent play of Gunnar Stockton. And Georgia, to me, in this spot, last year we saw an instant classic. 8 overtimes, just a barn burner. This game was supposed to be at Bobby Dodd Stadium. Now it's at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Georgia plays very well there under Kirby Smart. If you care about that kind of thing, They play very well in Mercedes-Benz under Kirby Smart. So I like Georgia in this spot, and I actually like Georgia to cover. I really like Georgia to cover this number of 13.5. I like for Georgia to win 31-17 or 34-20, somewhere in that neighborhood. I really do think that excuse me. I really do think that this Georgia team is different from last year in the sense that I don't think they're overlooking this spot. I think Tech missed their best opportunity to beat Georgia last year. They couldn't do it. They're not going to get an opportunity this year. I think Georgia jumps on Tech early, and I think they get a couple touchdown lead, and I think they pretty much hold it throughout the rest of the game. All right, moving on to Texas A&M at Texas, another intriguing matchup because there's a lot of talk around this football game. There's a lot of talk about Texas pulling the upset. Texas A&M currently only a 2.5-point favorite. So Vegas clearly giving Texas some respect. And with the play that we've seen from Arch Manning and this offense here over the last few weeks, aside from the Georgia game, this is an offense that has definitely gotten better. Arch Manning is a quarterback who has definitely grown up before our eyes. He looks a lot better, looks a lot better than he did earlier in the season. He's making good decisions. Steve Sarkisian's calling all the right plays to get Arch comfortable. The game plan for Sarkisian is very simple in the fact that early in the game, they're going to throw a lot of screens, a lot of flat route, a lot of dump offs, a lot of things like that. They're just really going to keep the ball close, get Arch's confidence up, and then they turn him loose. That's what they did against Vanderbilt, and that's what they did last week as well. So that to me is the game plan. A&M, we've seen this team be dominant. Here's the test, I guess. And it's hard to say you're facing your first test and it's 8-3 Texas team. This is a very formidable Texas team. They still have the talent on the roster. Injury reports pretty much non-existent for Texas, so they're at full strength. Arch Manning playing with the level of confidence he's playing. And then also with that defense that I said it on last week's show. What Texas's defense? Where's the Texas defense that played Oklahoma? Where's that defense? Where's the Texas defense that was the first half of the season that held Ohio State to 14 points? Like, that defense needs to show up in this football game. If they want a chance at winning, that defense has got to show up. At least have a pulse, because we've seen Texas give up over 40 points, last few weeks. We've seen it more often than we thought we would. And in order for Texas to beat Texas A&M, it's going to take a good performance out of that defense. Now, definitely helps the fact that you're in Austin. You're at home for this football game. That helps. But Texas A&M, this is a big, big question for me because we haven't seen A&M. We haven't seen A&M against a top half SEC team. And I know I make the same argument for like Ohio State. It's like, well, they haven't played anybody. A&M's played SEC teams. They've played some decent football teams. But they are going to get Texas's best shot in this spot. And currently favored by 2.5. This game's a coin flip per Vegas, almost a coin flip per Vegas. I mean, this is a game I feel like could go either way. I feel like both teams score in the 20s. And I can't believe I'm saying it, but I like Texas to pull the upset. I like Texas to pull the upset in this spot. I like Texas to win by a field goal. I like for this game to be a grimy, grinded out style football game. I like Texas to win 23-20 over A&M. I really do. I think, and this is opinion now, I'm just saying, like some of y'all take this crap way too serious. This is my opinion. I think we see an inspired Texas team at home. I think we see a good performance out of that defense. And I think that, they're able to they're able to kind of muck it up a little bit and dirty it up, and they're able to win this football game against A&M. So I like Texas 23-20 in that spot. All right, the nightcap, 9 p.m. on Fox. We got Arizona State. Quarterback matchup, Sam Levitt, Noah Fafita. You know about Sam Levitt. You know about Noah Fafita if you follow quarterback play in the NCAA. Great quarterback matchup. That's the key that I'm going to be watching here for this particular football game. It's a game to me where I feel like one team comes into this football game, Arizona State, playing. They've kind of righted the ship a little bit from some early season woes, had some injuries, and things of that sort, had to get healthy. But they're starting to kind of hit a little bit of a stride here. Arizona currently the favorite in this spot by 1.5. It's almost a coin flip game. ESPN's FPI, if you pay attention to that, has Arizona State at a 51.3% chance of winning. So nearly a 50-50 game. But the quarterback matchups here are going to be great. Likewise, Mahdi, the running back position for Arizona. Great back, great speed. Raleek Brown for Arizona State. Great running back matchup as well. I like to watch, I like the team that's actually playing the better football right now. Yeah, Arizona's had some big performances as of late, some big wins as of late. They've been impressive. They had the win against Cincinnati here just a couple weeks ago. That was kind of like everybody got put on notice by this team. But either way, I feel like Arizona State, has a little bit more of they have a little bit more momentum coming into this game with the 25-point win against Colorado. Then they beat, Iowa State, West Virginia. They're kind of on a little bit of a roll here. So I like Arizona State in this spot. Give me Arizona State, and give me Arizona State to win 27-24. Flipping the, I'm going to take them outright. Arizona currently, like I said, the favorite by 1.5. Taking Arizona State outright in that one. All right, so Saturday's slate. Got quite a few. Let me get a sip of water. All right, so we're going to start it off with a bang. Saturday slate. The game, noon. Ohio State at Michigan. This has been a game over the last few years, and I will say this with caution, and I'm being as cautionary as I can be, Ohio State fans, if you're listening. I have seen over the last week Ohio State fans, we're going to kill Michigan. We're going to beat Michigan. And I get it. It's a rivalry. You hate each other. You go to anybody's Instagram, Twitter page that's an Ohio State fan, they've got the letter M replaced with a red X everywhere. So understand it. You hate them. Well, I get it. But here's the thing. That's also the same thing that you've been saying for the last 4 years. Last year, Michigan didn't even have a quarterback. They didn't even have a passing attack last year and still beat you. So I don't know what it takes. And if you know, please, by all means, text me, call me, whatever. I don't know what it takes to shut Ohio State fans up. I really don't. I have no idea what it takes. Because 4 years in a row, you're losing to your biggest rival. And here we are back in the same shoes that we were in last year. We didn't even kick them off at the door. We kept them on. If anything, the shoes got bigger after you won the national championship. Now, the whole world wants to see you fail. And I'm saying that just because you're being aggravating. You're being annoying. You're SEC. So, here's the thing. You haven't played anybody. This is the first team, y'all, and I've been saying this. This is the first team that Ohio State's going to play in like 2 months, really, that can be physical with them. We saw a Texas team be physical with them. Ohio State scored 14 points. Other than that, they've played a bunch of, patty cake with whoever, you name it. They've been playing patty cake for most of the college football season. And by most, I mean 90% of the college football season. They've been playing patty cake with lesser teams. Teams that couldn't even dream to have the talent that they have. Now you're going to line up against a team that has the talent to not, I wouldn't say match you, but definitely, can play with you physically. And here's the thing. Last year, FPI had Ohio State as an 81% chance to win this football game last year. This year, they got them at 78. This year, Ohio State's an 11.5-point favorite. Last year, they were a 13.5-point favorite, or 12.5. Similar circumstances. The only difference is this one is in Ann Arbor. And if you don't think that Michigan and Ann Arbor would like nothing more than to spoil Ohio State's perfect record, because let's be honest, you're not going to stop them from going to the playoff. You're not going to crush their postseason hopes or anything like that. But you can put that one in that loss column, and you can point at it. We did that. Because granted, I don't think Michigan wins this football game. I think they're in the college football playoff. But Michigan is not going to go far in the college football playoff. This is not a team that's going to make a national title run. It's not there. But you can put that one in the loss column for your biggest rival. And that's something that's great in of itself. But quarterback matchups not really as glamorous as some of these other games. I mean, you got Julian Sayin, who's arguably one of the best, quarterbacks in college football. You could make the argument that when he's playing his best, there is nobody better than him in college football. But you got Bryce Underwood lining up across from him. Bo Jackson, kind of has had a really good year for Ohio State in that regard. The biggest area for Michigan to me is the loss of Justice Haynes. Now, he was kind of that workhorse guy. You still have Jordan Marshall, sophomore out of Cincinnati, Ohio, kind of, playing against his home state's team somewhat. But a guy that's averaging 6 yards a carry this year, 143 carries, 871 yards for Jordan Marshall. The key here for Michigan is going to be running the football. Now, the bad news is that you're going up against one of the best defenses against the run, if not the best. On the best day, I mean, when you talk about what Ohio State has on the defensive side, when you've got Curry, you've got Sonny Styles, you've got Caleb Downs, you've got, and like I've said before, the best off-ball linebacker in the country in Arvell Reese. Like, that defense is stacked. They're going to line up. They're going to try to stop the run. That's what they want to do. Make no mistake about it. Ohio State wants to line up. They want to stop the run. And they're basically going to challenge Bryce Underwood to beat them. That's the goal here. If you're Matt Patricia and you're Ohio State's defense, that's the goal. Excuse me. So what seems to me like a more realistic outcome? I think the more realistic outcome here is Ohio State wins and covers the spread. However, that's not what I'm picking. I'm picking Ohio State, but Michigan's going to make them sweat. I don't like Ohio State to blow Michigan out. I really think that they're not, especially, we're seeing we have, Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith kind of banged up a little bit, didn't play last week. So we've got that to think about as well. If those two guys don't play, and the forecast, pay attention to the weather forecast. Right now, 80% chance of snow, temperatures in the upper 20s. Snowy game favors the team that's going to run the football. And that's going to be that Michigan can run it. So that to me is the biggest things. Who's going to run the football better in this game? And I think Ohio State wins, but I think they squeak it out. I mean, I even think it might potentially take a last-minute field goal. Trying to figure out the score, I don't like Ohio State to cover. I know that for a fact. I do like them to win. I'm going to call Ohio State 23, Michigan 20. That's what I'm going with. So, point total, over and under, set at 44.5. I'm taking the under there as well. I just feel like with the weather that we're seeing, I don't think both teams' combined scores get to that number. So 23-20, Ohio State is what I like in that one. So Miami at Pittsburgh. I'm just going to save you a little bit of trouble. I like Miami in this spot. I don't, Pittsburgh, gets the win against Georgia Tech last week. I understand they're kind of in that driver's seat for the ACC, but I like Miami in this spot. I think Miami's just a little bit too good for Pittsburgh. It is on the road, maybe makes a little bit of a difference, but Miami feel like they've kind of bounced back a little bit from their midseason slump, so to speak. They've kind of bounced back. They're looking like the team that we thought they were going to be. They've looked like that team the past couple weeks. So going into Pittsburgh, I feel like they come into Pittsburgh on a high. 6.5 points. Miami's favored. Give me Miami. Give me Miami to cover, and give me Miami to win 30-23 in that game. Oregon at Washington, because I know y'all care so much about this one. Dan Lanning playing another unranked opponent. So glad he's competing over there in Oregon. Great for him. Oregon favored in this spot by 6.5 points. Here's the thing, though. The arrogant showboaty thing, right, that Dan Lanning likes to do, right? It's got to come to a head eventually. Like, I liked the guy when he was in Athens. I liked the guy after he left Athens. But here lately, he's turned into one of them guys that you just can't stand to see his face pop up on your television. For that very reason, and not that very reason alone, but here's the thing. I actually kind of like Washington to make this football game because of the style of football that Washington plays. Williams at quarterback, Boston at the receiver position. I really like this game to be a lot tighter than people are calling. With Jonah Coleman at running back is a guy that I've really been, talking highly about all year. I mean, 5'9", 230, just a beast of a running back, hard to bring down. Like, just bounces off of would-be tacklers, just great contact balance, just really runs well behind his pads. This is going to be a good running back matchup. I think this game is going to come down to who runs the football better. And I know I say that a lot, but a lot of football games come down to that. And this one particularly, I think that's what it comes down to. Who's going to have the better day, Coleman or Whittington? Here lately, Whittington's been running the football very well. Coleman's that workhorse style back, but that's to me the key area I'm zoned in on. Also, Washington's defense has got to have a plan to contain Kenyon Sadiq. I know I talked about him last week on the show, but that is one of the most talented players in college football at the tight end position for Oregon. Reminds you kind of like a Brock Bowers, like I said, where he's just all over the field. He can be anywhere at any given time. Backfield, slot, out wide, you name it. Down in a three-point stance, you name it. He can be anywhere. And so you've got to keep your eyes on him if you're Washington's defense. You can't allow him to just do his thing. Dante Moore also, the emergence of, not the emergence of him, but the fact that he's kind of gotten better throughout the year. He's made some really crucial throws in key moments, been very clutch for this Oregon team over the last few weeks. To me, Oregon, yes, more talented across the board. Quarterback versus quarterback, give me Oregon. Running back versus running back, give me Oregon. Tight end versus tight end, give me Oregon. Even Oregon's receivers, I'd argue they don't have a receiver better than Denzel Boston, but they do have some good receivers. Defense, Oregon's kind of winning a lot of the key metrics in that. However, I will say there's something, and I will put Oregon on upset alert here. I'm putting Oregon on upset alert because of the fact that I feel like this is a letdown spot for Oregon. Coming off of the win against USC last week, I feel like this is a potential letdown spot. It's on the road in Washington. I just feel like there's a lot of emotion around it. I'm not saying Washington's going to win this football game, but I'm putting Oregon on upset alert and saying they better watch out. It would not surprise me if Washington wins this football game. Not in the slightest. I'm going to pick Oregon, but I'm not picking Oregon to cover the 7.5-point spread that they have. I'm not going to pick them to cover. I'm going to go Oregon 27, Washington 23. I mean, I'm gonna say it's close, but I'm gonna say one play goes the opposite direction, and we could see Oregon leaving Seattle with a loss. I 100% feel like we could. All right, LSU, Oklahoma. I know I've got this on my list to pick this game. We're going to be quick about it. I don't think LSU has anything for Oklahoma. I really don't. They don't have anything on offense. Their defenses looked atrocious. Oklahoma's defense is going to hold LSU to less than 10 points. 100. I would. There's prop bets out there on that, and I'm mighty tempted to take it. Oklahoma is at home with that defense. I don't think there's any way LSU scores 10 points. No way. Their offense, anyway. I don't feel like there's any way their offense scores 10 points. Likewise, I feel like we could see this game being kind of not a low-scoring game, but Oklahoma, they're not notorious for scoring 30 points a game or nothing like that. I feel like Oklahoma scores 24 points, but it's good enough to beat LSU. let me see what my notes say. I've got Oklahoma actually in this one 26-9 is my final score for this one. 26-9, Oklahoma over LSU. All right, so Diego Pavia, Vanderbilt quarterback, says that Vanderbilt's going to be the new standard in Tennessee after this season. Tennessee currently favored in this rivalry game by 2.5 points. That's another person. I'm trying to think of how to word this. That's another person throughout the year that has just increasingly gotten more and more on my nerves. Like, between him and his mom, we need to take the cameras off of them. We're giving these people way too much credit here. We're giving them way too much fame. Like, I'm done. Every time they show Diego Pavia on the field, they show his mom in the stands. Like, okay, we get it. His mom's a good-looking lady. Like, his mom's got this charisma about her, whatever. The Theo Vaughn connection, whatever's going on there. Some people say they're dating. Some people say they're not. I have no idea, nor do I give a crap. So, I want Tennessee to bludgeon Vanderbilt. And I can't believe as a Georgia fan I'm saying that, but, like with this podcast, sometimes I have to take my Georgia cap off and sit it to the side. Georgia cap off, sit it to the side. I want Tennessee to beat the crap out of Vanderbilt. I'm so sick of the Diego Pavia stuff. Like, great player, but he knows it, and that's the problem. Like, guy talking about Heisman, number 1 overall pick, blah, 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 blah. Like, dude, it's exhausting having to listen to that. Just play your game. Let the play on the field talk for you. If you have to go on some kind of, campaign, that's what I said last year with Travis Hunter versus Ashton Genty last year. Travis Hunter went on like 3 or 4 podcasts inside of a month to the Heisman ceremony and was pleading his case to win the Heisman. If you have to go on like a media tour, media frenzy, or you have to constantly stand in front of the cameras or stand behind a microphone, and you constantly have to say, I'm going to win the Heisman, I got to win the Heisman, you don't deserve it. One of my favorite shows of all time, Game of Thrones, Tywin Lannister. I'm going to nerd out on you for a second. But Joffrey Baratheon, king at the time, horrible person, by the way. If you ever watch the show, you get the sentiment. Says something about he could do what he wants, I'm the king. Tywin Lannister says, any man who says I am the king is no true king. Reference. Any man who says I'm going to win the Heisman is no true Heisman winner. You recall Joe Burrow doing this, like, I'm going to win the Heisman. Every time he got behind a mic, he was talking about how good he was, being cocky and arrogant. No. Because the guy had one of the greatest seasons we've ever seen in college football from a quarterback standpoint. He didn't need to do it. So, back to the essence of this game, though. Tennessee favored by 2.5 points. I think Tennessee's high-flying offense, I think their up-tempo, the speed at which they play, I think causes problems for a Vanderbilt defense that has showed some signs this year of struggling in that regard. I feel like if you let Vanderbilt get set, if you let Vanderbilt kind of get their wits about them on defense, they can line up and they can play ball. I mean, this is a Vanderbilt team that's much improved. Shout out to Clark Lee on that. Like, definitely much improved from what we've seen. This is not the same Vanderbilt team we saw 20 years ago that was a constant doormat for every team in the SEC. This is a different Vanderbilt. So, Tennessee, I feel like, will exploit the weaknesses in this Vanderbilt defense. I think they're going to attack the conditioning of this Vanderbilt defense. And I think that this up-tempo offense, everything, I think Tennessee gives Vanderbilt some problems. I think this game is a back-and-forth shootout-style football game until late in the fourth quarter, and I think Vanderbilt makes a mistake late in the fourth quarter that causes Tennessee to score and win this game by 10 points. I like Tennessee 38, Vanderbilt 30. Lock it in. I wouldn't hate it if Tennessee won 45-30. I'm just saying. Wouldn't hate it at all. All right, last game we're going to talk about, and you know what's coming, the Iron Bowl. Seen a lot of publicity, seen a lot of hype around this football game over the last few days. People talking about Auburn's going to upset Alabama. It's in Jordan-Hare. It's at night. It's this. It's that. All the storylines that we've seen surrounding this football game, right? So, Alabama, under Kalen DeBoer, this is a spot where, you know, under Kalen DeBoer, historically, this is a spot where they've slipped up. Okay, they can go on the road and play a top 10 opponent like Georgia and look like world beaters. They go on the road to play an unranked opponent last year like Oklahoma. They get the doors blown off of them. Very hard to pinpoint the coaching strategy that causes that kind of stuff to happen with Kalen DeBoer. Because this team can look the best. They can look better than anybody against a ranked opponent on the road, top 10, you name it, against like a Georgia or whatever. They look great. Then they can go on the road to play an unranked opponent, and it's like, what in the world are they doing? So the arguments that I have seen this week about Auburn's going to win this football game, Auburn could win this football game, they have some merit. I'm not going to lie. These, you know, they definitely have, I could definitely see a world where Auburn wins this football game. Just based on the fact Auburn has the talent. It's not a lack of talent issue. DJ Durkin, now the interim coach of this Auburn Tigers team, you know, he's a guy that, you know, prides himself on physicality, toughness, playing in the moment, staying in the moment. Very passionate guy. I feel like he's going to have the troops fired up, riled up, ready to go. They've got the talent. They've got guys like Cam Coleman. They've got the talent. Deuce Knight last week, man, just video game style numbers for Deuce Knight last week. Deuce Knight expected to play in this football game, expected to get the start. I think that gives Bama's defense a little bit of fits. They don't have a lot of film on the kid. They got what they got last week, you know, obviously. Very talented kid. So, Bama favored by 5.5 in this spot. The issues with Bama that I've been saying for weeks continue to show themselves. The fact that Ty Simpson, who looked great earlier in the season, has kind of fallen off a little bit, can't complete footballs down the field. 15 yards and in, 10 yards and in rather, he'll pick you apart. Outside of those distances, he gets a little very inconsistent, completing those type of passes down the field at a very alarmingly low percentage. So, you know, we've got that. Also, you've got the athletes, you know, for Alabama. This is the problem for Auburn. Auburn's defense. Now, we've seen this Auburn defense, this front seven that's been great this year at times. We've seen a secondary that can give up some yards. When you've got the four-headed monster that Alabama's got at the receiver position with Bernard, Williams, Brooks, and Horton, it puts a lot of stress on that secondary, puts a lot of stress on that defense. The key here is that front seven for Auburn. You want to pull the upset. You want to win the Iron Bowl. You want to ruin Alabama's season. Knock them out of the playoff. Knock them out of the SEC. I mean, Auburn wins, and they crush Alabama's season. Like, for your biggest rival, I don't think there's anything else you would like more. That's what you want to do. You beat, make no mistake about it, Auburn beats Alabama here. Alabama's not going to the playoff. Alabama's not going to Atlanta. So that's the big one here. Like, Auburn can officially wreck Alabama's season and send them to the Capital One Bowl or whatever. They're not playing in the playoff. Do I feel like Auburn has enough to do it, though? That's the big question. I think a lot of people I've seen pick this game, Auburn winning, very emotional. I'm going to put Alabama on upset alert. I'm going to pick Alabama, but I'm going to put them on upset alert just because. Jordan Hare, nighttime, we've seen some crazy stuff. We've seen the kick six. We've seen the prayer at Jordan Hare from Georgia and Auburn that year. We've seen some crazy stuff happen in that stadium at night. So I feel like the people over there in Auburn, Alabama, stirring up the voodoo magic, trying to make it extra special this year, maybe. Auburn's definitely got the talent to hang with Alabama. I like Alabama winning, like I said. I like Alabama covering, but they're only favored by 3.5. But I like Alabama 24, Auburn 20. 24-20 in this spot. It's another spot, too, though. Alabama comes in, makes some mistakes, turns the football over. Look out. It could swing the other way. I'm just saying. That's definitely a very realistic possibility for that football game. All right, everybody. Like I said, this episode was going to be a little shorter than normal. 42 minutes now, almost 43 minutes and tracking. I will get off of here and give y'all time to get back with your family. Go eat some lunch. Go stuff your faces. I know I'm about to. I'm probably about to go gain 20 pounds between eating at my parents' house and my wife's parents' house. So, I'm already taking deep breaths and preparing myself for the bountiful harvest that awaits me on the table of, my mom's table and then my in-laws' table. Y'all go enjoy the same. Enjoy Thanksgiving with your family. Remember what it's all about, man. Giving thanks. Giving thanks for what you got. I know I have a beautiful wife. I have a beautiful daughter. I'm just cannot put into words how thankful I am for the life that I have. I hope you feel the same way. I will catch y'all on Monday. We will recap Rivalry Week's action. Hopefully, I'm rooting for a lot of carnage, and I hope there is a lot of carnage because I'd love to really talk about it. A lot of upsets. So catch y'all on Monday here on After the Whistle. Be sure to tell your friends, tell your mom and them about the show. Be sure to like and subscribe on the YouTube channel, on Spotify, Amazon, and Apple Podcast. I'll catch y'all Monday on the recap show. See y'all.